I had him and I'm holding him, and he was actually there, I was like, okay, no matter what happens, even if I'm on my own or whatever, um, I can do it. It's the two of them and their spouses and their kids, and so if I'm not around, like I would like to still see them continuing the bond that they have together, and keeping that strong, and building a bigger tribe. I think being a part of a village or having that tribe help raise your kids, it's a two-way street as well, because you're going to be there for them in their needs as well, and support them in anything that they might need. And I think that just makes your tribe stronger. Taking an interest in what your kids like. It might not always be the most enjoyable for you, but learning it and like being a part of it with them is huge.
All right, welcome to the Rad Dad Podcast. This is episode 25. I have a good friend, a good family friend, Brandee Stubbs here. And I didn't tell you this before, but this is a special episode because it's episode 25. So
Nice.
It's kind of a mile marker for me. I have a goal this year to hit 50 episodes total. So I'm kind of halfway to the goal, I guess you could say. So just to start off, I ask the same question to my guests on every podcast episode, and that is, just tell me about your upbringing and maybe some highlights from your childhood.
I was born in Utah and then moved to Idaho when I was 2. Lived there for 10 years. Came back to Utah when my parents got a divorce, and have been here since. Got married at a young age, had two boys, and we got a divorce, and that's about it.
So
that's me in a nutshell.
I didn't know you lived in Idaho.
Yeah.
Did you like Idaho?
I loved growing up in Idaho because I was there from 2 to 12, which I feel like is some important ages.
That's like your
childhood. Yeah.
Because then you're a teenager.
And yeah, it's like your elementary years and everything. Mm-hmm. So all of my like core younger memories are in Idaho. And it's just a small little town north of Boise. And like I still have some pretty good friends like that I grew up with that we're still really good friends with. So
okay. So I never moved growing up. Not once. I grew up in the same house. So I'm always curious, when you moved, were you like mad or just like excited? Like what'd you feel as a 12-year-old moving to Utah?
Scared. Yeah. Like, and I feel like at 12, cause it was 6th grade, and in Idaho, we're still in elementary school. Moving to Spanish Fork, then it was, because it had 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah.
And so I'm going from an elementary school to junior high, 7 classes a day.
Yeah.
And not knowing anybody. It was, it was scary. We, my mom didn't, like obviously they just got divorced and she's starting over with her career. So we, my mom bought a house in Spanish Fork that was a dump. So we went to school all day, came home, and like she was at school. She went to college and worked. And so then during that time, me and my sisters and brother and a good friend from Idaho that was living here, we did the remodel on the house. So we gutted the rooms every day after school. That's what we were doing. So until it was finished.
So how many siblings do you have?
I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers.
And you all moved to Utah.
So at that time, it was just my younger sister, myself, and then a sister that's 2 years older than I am, and then my brother that's 3 years older than I am, and then the older 3 had moved out. So they were off doing their own thing.
So your mom took the little ones and went to Utah. Mm-hmm. Do you remember observing struggles that your mom had, or were you just kind of oblivious to it because you were still young?
No. I remember. So that we moved the week of Christmas. And
was it pretty abrupt? Like we're out of here? Because that's such a weird time to move.
It is a weird time to move. And I don't know why we moved during that time. But she came here, and she came to Utah got her real estate license. And while she was doing that, we stayed with some family friends in Idaho.
Okay.
And then she came back, got us. And while she was here, she found that house. So came back, got us, brought us here. We had, my brother had like an old GMC truck, and that we put all of our stuff in there. And then my mom had a car, and that's literally what we brought here.
Just
we
made the drive with 2 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, we dropped my brother's truck off at my uncle's house in Linden, and then drove to my grandma's house and over to Nevada. I don't know if you know where that's at, just past Mesquite.
Okay.
So we spent Christmas there, and my grandma bought Christmas for us that year. And so we did Christmas there, came back, and started the remodel on the house. We were flipping houses before it was cool.
Yeah.
So.
Dang.
Yeah.
So, what emotions, like, did you know this was like a big family change, or like, was it just like, this is what's happening and this is my normal? Like, did you recognize that it wasn't normal to move you and your siblings to Utah with a single mother? And
yeah, I did. Yeah. I mean, it's something that obviously I knew wasn't what all my other friends were going through, right? Because they're all still in Idaho, and everything's intact and great. And definitely knew it was a huge change. And because we moved to Utah because we had my mom comes from a family of 14.
14 kids?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 girls, 4 boys. And so there were some aunts and uncles nearby, so that's why she came here. And my uncle was in the real estate business, so she came to work with him.
Okay.
And yeah, like seeing them, all of my cousins, like their family's still intact. It wasn't like definitely realized like things are about to change. Things are different than my other friends are experiencing. And then and feeling now starting a new school. And feeling like the odd one out, right? A little different than everybody else. And you don't know everybody else's story. So I was probably more alike than I realized, but coming in and not being with all these kids as they grew up coming into this, into 6th grade, then, feeling like for sure different than everybody. So
you moved to Utah during your teenage years. Who did you look to for support? Who are you close to?
I had some good friends, and then also my older sister, my sister Paula. Like I feel like I tagged along with her quite a bit. And then my little sister. So a lot of like family.
So you're pretty tight with your siblings.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had to redo a house, so we got pretty tight.
Yeah, whether you're friends or not, you better be.
Yeah.
During the remodel.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, you said you were married at a young age. We're in Utah. I mean, how young are we talking?
Okay.
Because you know how old Katie was when we got married.
I know. All right. So we'll go a little bit more personal. We started dating when we were 15. Almost 15. And when I was 16, I got pregnant and had a miscarriage. We were going to get married at that point, and then had a miscarriage, so called it off, but continued to date. And then I had my oldest son when I was 18, and waited. He was 9 months old when we decided to get married. So I just turned 19.
So having a boy at 18 years old, were you just blindly in love and just ready to take on the world, or were you fearful and did you experience self-doubt? Like where in the spectrum did you lie?
So thankfully, I had an older sister. Well, I had an older sister that had twin girls, when I was 8. And 8 years old, that first summer when they're 3 months old, I came down to Ogden and St. George and babysat them by myself, which is crazy thinking about leaving an 8-year-old with
Twins?
Two babies. Yeah. Yeah.
That's brutal.
And so, and then my other sister had a boy when I was 14, and she ended up getting paralyzed when she had her baby. And so she needed a lot of extra help. So for the first 6 to 8 months, then I'd go back and forth from Idaho often because she was still in Idaho. So I'd go back and forth and help her. So I felt comfortable taking care of a baby.
Okay.
But when I got pregnant, I was definitely like not hoping, but like it's got to be a girl because that's what I mean, I'm a girl, right? So,
yeah.
And also being like, we weren't married and it was just me. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. It would be easier, right? And so then when I found out it was a boy, then I was like, what the heck? What am I going to do with a boy?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that didn't last long. And I was like, I got this.
So did you feel pretty confident because of your past experience with your nieces? Like you felt pretty confident taking care of a baby?
Yeah. Taking care of a baby, I was like, not even worried about it because I mean, yeah, I started at 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I traumatized them a few times, but other than that, like they had survived. So
yeah.
But
so what doubts went through your head?
I would say being a single mom was the like, how am I going to take care of him? You know, I know physically I can take care of him or help him or whatever, but like financially or even emotionally, like as they get older, like not knowing, because I didn't know if we were going to get married or how things were going to work out. Okay. So,
is that why you say single mom? Because you didn't know how things were going to work out?
Well, okay. He had gotten somebody else pregnant.
Okay.
And so my oldest had a half brother that was 6 weeks older than him.
Okay.
So, yeah, like you've got 2 girls, 2 babies. You don't know what's going to go on. And that's why it was like 9 months before we ended up getting married. Cause I, wasn't there. I was like, we're not getting married, and so in my mind, that wasn't happening. And, it was just going to be Eric and I going forward. And so, and yeah, and just graduated high school. How do I financially support him? And then, where do we go from there? As he's getting older, how do I do this mom to a boy role without another male figure there?
Yeah. So, did you feel like you thought ahead and you had a plan in place, or was it just kind of like guided by faith? Like, what was your attitude as far as
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't really any plan. We were kind of just day by day, week by week, and kind of seeing how things were going. Obviously, a lot of drama going on with the other situation, and so getting through that and figuring out how that plays a role in your life as well. I mean, because at the end of the day, they're half brothers. So, is there relationship? Is there not a relationship? You don't know. Mm-hmm. And, so yeah, it was.
Was there ever a moment when you were like, okay, I got this, like I'm okay and I can do this?
Yeah. Probably, I mean, during the pregnancy, there was a lot more unknowns or whatever, but I think once I had him and I'm holding him, and he was actually there, I was like, okay, no matter what happens, even if I'm on my own or whatever, I can do it. Like if it's me and him for the remainder of time, like we got this.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Yeah. So, what's the next part of the story? You get
It's the
married.
next part of the story.
You get married
We
9
get
months
married.
later.
Not 9 months later, actually. Oh yeah, we got married. I thought you meant 9 months later. Here comes Tyler. No. So we get married, live in Payson, have a house there, and living our life, figuring out the ins and outs of the relationship with his other son, and having him, he would get him sometimes, not very often. Um, and I mean, honestly, it wasn't a healthy relationship from the start. It wasn't a healthy relationship. And so, probably a part of me was like, I mean, obviously I loved him, but I probably got married more so just to be like, just to, like, I had a good relationship with his family, and, to feel like I had some type of stability going forward, right?
Yeah.
But in my heart, knowing that it's not the right relationship to be in. It's not a healthy relationship to be in.
Gotcha.
So, and then we were married a couple years, and I got pregnant with Tyler. So
what's the age gap with Eric and Tyler?
3.5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
which I think is a perfect gap. It's kind of nice.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because we're pretty close to that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what were some differences in your experience with your pregnancy with Eric and Tyler, as far as where you were at mentally and just your progression in life?
Well, unfortunately, it was probably similar only because my husband at the time was cheating on me, and I knew that. And so still the unknown. Like, now I'm pregnant with the second baby. What the heck? Like, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And how long is this going to last? And now if I leave, I have two kids to take care of.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
As a single mother.
Yeah. And so do the ultrasound. It's kind of funny. So we do the ultrasound. They say it's a boy, which I was thankful for, because then I was like,
got one figured out, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah, I got one figured out, and they can be buddies, right? So if it ends up being the three of us, they have each other. And so, but it was kind of funny because they had noticed like a growth in Tyler's stomach. So they were like, you have to go to a specialist. So we're like, okay, go to a specialist, do the ultrasound. And we ended up going like every 3 weeks until he was born, just so they could watch that. And then it ended up not being anything. But every time we went, the person doing the ultrasound would change the sex of the baby.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
so like,
that's
we
like
go
playing a
in,
mind
yeah,
game.
we go in and they're like, no, it's a girl. And I'm like, no, they said it was a boy. No, look, it's totally a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're the specialist. So then fast forward 3 weeks. Oh, it looks like you're having a boy. And I'm like, no, wait. And so every time we went, it would be different. And so I'm like, all I know for sure is I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being Tyler, which was perfect. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So they're 3.5 years apart. What was Eric like? Like Lincoln's 3. I know he knows, he's very aware that there's a baby coming.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see like how he
Eric,
reacts.
yeah, he was so excited. And from day one, he was like, I'm having a brother. So he knew, and was like, okay. Even when they were like, it's a girl, he's like, no, it's a boy. He knew. And it's kind of, so my ex-husband's name was John, and Eric's half brother's name was John also. So they called him Little John. So this is the only way I think that Eric thought that it was like normal, is he was 100% set on naming Tyler Little Eric. He was going to be Big Eric and Little Eric. And so he wanted him Eric, like,
yeah.
from the get-go, he was sure we're naming him Eric. And now he's like, we're not naming him Eric. Your name's Eric. We have to have a different name.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he came the day we had him, super excited, like loved him. And I have a picture of him with like the biggest scowl on his face when we told him that his name wasn't Eric. So
when
like,
was it
Tyler.
in the hospital?
Yeah, he was in the hospital. He's sitting there, he's holding him, and he's looking at me like, you're such a jerk. Like, I can't believe we're not naming him Eric. So yeah.
So
he loved it.
Okay. Well, what's the next part of this story of Brandee's life?
So then, so Tyler was born in November, and December, so he's just a month and a half old. Then my ex started like, I mean, he was cheating before, but now it was like multiple people and more people were knowing about it. And it's one thing to be like, not like naive about it, but like try and, you know, I feel like sometimes you try and protect the person and be like,
yeah,
not wanting people to find out. And so, I mean, it's Utah County. I always laugh because I'm like, it's Utah County or even Utah. Like, it's such a small,
especially Payson
world.
Back then.
Yeah, like, yeah, for sure. And so, we separated, for a little bit then, and then had got back together by the so the relationship had also gotten physical. And so there was one time that Eric was around when he hit me. And he's 3.5, 4, right? So you're not, I'm not thinking anything of it. And fast forward, I think it had been like 4 or 5 months, and kind of the same type of situation was going on, but it was the second time, like, we're kind of joking about things or whatever, because the first time I had like smacked him on his butt to get him to wake up, and that's when he like got mad and stuff. And so this time we were just joking around, and like I jokingly smacked him because we were joking about other things, and Eric saw it and was like, "Mom, don't," because it like took him back, right? And I kind of like paused for a minute, and I was like, holy crap, like he remembers. And at the time then, I mean, John wasn't around. He would work all day, and then we'd be out all night. Like they saw him around dinner time, and then that was it. And then this happens, and I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I have these 2 little boys. This is not what I want them to think a husband's like or a dad is like, you know, like I want something better for them.
Yeah.
And so we left, and that got a divorce, and we didn't look back. It was there, because there was times where we'd broken up before and kind of got back and forth together. But this time it was like 100% certain. It was done. It just like realizing that, and realizing the what they, now I can't think of the word of it, their role model, I guess, what they're seeing. And I'm like, yeah. I don't want them to be a husband like this. I don't want a wife to be going through this, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't want them to be a dad like this. And I want them to realize, like, that's not how dads are or husbands are, you know? So it was a lot easier to walk away.
From an outside perspective, hearing that story, I think people can be quick to be like, what were you doing there? You know, why were you with him for even that long? Or, you know, they have questions like that. But I think you may have maybe felt trapped.
Oh, for sure. And financially, you know, you have 2 kids, and I'm working like, thankfully I had such an amazing job, but at the time I'm working, I was working at Rocky Mountain ATV in the call center at first, so it's like $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, like I'm thinking, what in the heck?
Yeah.
And then I moved into the HR position and got a raise here and I got a raise here and eventually, and that was another thing, being able to make that decision at that time and walk away, being able to have a reliable job helped a ton,
Yeah.
and a supportive family as
Yeah.
well. So,
Do you feel like it took a lot of strength to make the final decision?
I think yes, because there was still a lot of like background noises or whatever, like other people and him himself, like wanting to make it work, or
Yeah.
let's do this, or I promise I'll do this, or whatever. Um, and so it's crazy though, because of that incident with Tyler, or with Eric making that comment, and like just seeing how black and white that was, like that was
Yeah.
like such a eye-opening experience. Like, holy crap, like kids, like you might think like, I mean, how many times does Lincoln say something you're like, how the heck did you hear that word, or where'd
Yeah.
you learn that word?
Yeah.
And but yeah, like it made me realize like how much they were taking in, and how much, and I think it was hard, but because it was more of a decision, like I wasn't thinking about myself anymore. I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to be divorced. I want, I was thinking about them
Yeah.
and what their future was going to be like. It made it a lot easier.
Are you proud of yourself for having the courage to make that decision and control your family's future?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So when you left, what did you do as they grew up? What did you do to make sure they had like father figures, or, make sure they learned things that boys learn from their dads?
Right. Like shaving.
Yeah.
um, it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of cliche when they're like, takes a village to raise a family or whatever, but 1,000%, like it, that's kind of what I tried to make sure the people that were in our lives were like a good role model for them, or that it was like
Were you pretty picky who you kind of let into your inner circle?
yeah. So like dating, I dated, but they'll probably say they've met 2 people that I've dated. Other than that, I'd be like, we're meeting at a park and ride and we're doing that, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, very picky, but we like thinking, I was been thinking about this, because like you have people come into your life at certain times of your life, and you need them at that time.
Right.
They might not be there for a long time. Like they come in, they serve their purpose, or even you serve their purpose for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're gone. And just from like, we'll start with football. Like, here's the thing is like, it's funny because I love sports and everybody assumes that I like sports or watch it or whatever because I have 2 boys. And so because of that, then I started.
Yeah.
But my mom had us watching the Super Bowl since I can remember. So I played sports. So it was probably better I had 2 boys. But Eric was 8, and there was a sign, like a little yard sign that's like Utah Valley Youth Football or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like, heck yeah, I'm signing him up for football. Like, this is what I want to do. And sign him up. I remember his first day of practice. He did not want to go. And we fought and fought and fought. And he was like, no, this is dumb. And I was mad. He was mad. Tyler was just there to enjoy it all. And so ends up going to practice, loves it. Obviously, the rest is history. But that first year of football is where we met your wife and her family, and some of my best friends to this day. And then we met, like, the Warnicks were in there. So many core people that have played such a huge part of our lives the last, and I can't do math, but 20 years.
Yeah.
So 17 years. And yeah, and I always think about that. I'm like, if I would have listened to Eric and been like, fine, you don't have to go, like, we could have, there's a lot of good relationships that we would have not had. But it's crazy because one of the people that we became really good friends with, her ex-husband was coaching, and then she had 2 sons on the team. Her name's Pam. And so she was single, so we like kind of connected. She had 4 kids. We connected, started hanging out, and so at the time, the boys and I were living in Spanish Fork, and we ended up moving to Orem, to Provo area, and Tyler was starting kindergarten, and he had afternoon kindergarten. Well, so as a single mom, I was like, they were just starting all day kindergarten, and
you're like, heck yeah.
I was like, this is the best thing ever. But you had to be tested. You had to be tested to have all day, right? So you had to have low test scores. So I was like, okay, Tyler, we're going to do testing. Please act like you don't know anything. I'm like, just go in there, pretend you don't know any of it. And he's like, okay. So we go in there, and they're like, and I'm watching, and they're like, 2 + 2, he's all 4. And I'm like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So he didn't get all day kindergarten. So he had to be afternoon. And there was a babysitter that was cheap for me, 2 blocks from the school. So I'm like, perfect. But Tyler hated her. She's an older lady. Tyler did not like her. And he would, like, I would get a phone call. Like, I would drop him off to the babysitter, drive to Payson to work. And by the time I get to Payson, I'm getting a call from the elementary school saying, hey, Brandee, Tyler's here again. And he would leave the house and walk to school. They're like, he's just hanging out in the office, but like, he can't stay here. And it like happened almost every day. And I'm like, Tyler, we went through this. You can't leave.
Yeah.
But so then rewind to Pam, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And she watched him a couple days, and he realized how amazing that was. And so like, it was almost every morning he'd be like, please take me to Pam's house. And so he got to, that was his new BFF. And yeah, she saved us, like, saved Tyler for sure during that time, because I couldn't pay for him to go anywhere else, and he hated going where he was going. And so thankfully, like, she was there to step in and spoil him every morning. And then so I think, like, we had a lot of good role models, or the people around us. But and with the men, I feel like there was a lot of like their football coaches that turned into like some of their best friends, and we in their life. But then also the females in their life as well, they both have a couple like second moms, and morning mom. And so it was key for me to make sure they had a good role models that are going to teach them the shaving and things like that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
But then also I feel like it was just as important to have other females around too that fill in gaps maybe where I'm still learning. So
awesome. I love that. Was there ever moments when you just kind of stepped back and saw your boys interacting with this community that you'd built, and just did you feel gratitude, or what did you feel
yeah,
towards these people?
I am so thankful, and even to this day, because so many of them are like I said, there's some that were only there for a moment and served their purpose, or I think it kind of goes vice versa. So we might have done something for them as well, you know?
Yeah.
But there's still so many that were such a huge part of their lives growing up. And they're still such a huge part of their life now.
Yeah.
And seeing that, like, I love that they have those relationships and that they're still there and they're strong and they have like, I mean, they're family, you know? So yeah, I'm grateful and thankful that like I made that decision that one, that I would be more cautious on who's coming around and who's doing this, and
Yeah.
And that I was guided or led towards these specific people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What values did you see essential in raising your boys?
Well, one thing I felt, so I grew up LDS, and then when I got married, it wasn't it wasn't really a priority. And after we got divorced, then when we lived in Spanish Fork, we went to church a little bit. But like taking 2 kids by yourself, especially 2 rambunctious boys.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Not the easiest. Chased Tyler down the highway in Salem one time as he left church, and like, yeah. So it got to the point where I was like, this isn't what are we doing this for, right?
Yeah.
So 100% became inactive, was not going anymore, and we moved to Orem, where we're at now, or where I'm at now. And as they were getting older, we were in a great ward that we weren't going to, but we had people reaching out all the time and checking in to see if we need anything. And finally I was like, what I wanted is like, I wanted them to, so I wasn't really on board. I was like, I'll take them to church, but I've done my thing, you know? But I wanted them to have that background. I was like, I don't care if they're 25 years old and they decide they don't want to continue going to church.
Right.
I want them to have some core values and that background and something to fall back on. So when they're 28 years old and they're going through something, they know where they can turn to. Because I had that, and I had, you know, the knowledge of the gospel, and so I wanted to make sure that they at least had that, whatever they went and did with it later on. I was like, at the time I was like, that's totally up to them, that's fine, but for now, like, I have memories going to primary, I want them to have memories going to primary, you know. And so I sucked it up and was like, let's start going. And we started going to church, and yeah, the 3 of us, like, it definitely became more important in our lives than I was expecting it to be. And I'm, you know, Eric served a mission in Mexico. Tyler went to San Diego. Tyler's married in the temple now, and to be able to have conversations with them about the gospel. And Tyler and Paige are in my ward still, so to get to go to church with them is fun. But that's one like core value that I feel like was really important. I didn't realize it like when I was having kids, but
Yeah.
after the fact and after everything we went through, I was like, I want them to have that in their life. And I feel like the people we've had in our ward, or the young men leaders that they've had, the primary leaders that they've had, the bishops that they've had in their life, have made such a huge impact on them as well. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So from an outside perspective, because my wife and her family have been friends with you a lot longer than I have. I think we were talking about this a couple of days ago. It's like 15 years that you've known Katie. Something like that. Maybe a little bit more.
I think a little bit longer.
Yeah. And
I
then
think 17 years.
And we've known each other just over 9 years.
Right.
So, but just from an outside perspective, and something I've observed is that you and Tyler and Eric, you guys are like magnets for like, I guess, supportive people. Like, you built this tribe, and I look at the people that are in your lives, and they're all in on your boys. What advice would you give to somebody that's trying to create that community for themselves and their family?
I think you attract people who are similar to you, right? And I feel like I've always tried to teach Eric and Tyler, like, you know, if somebody needs help doing something, whether it's my mom or a neighbor or a friend or anybody, like, we stop what we're doing and we go and we help them.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be like the best timing, or that you necessarily want to do it, or it's cold outside and it's snowing or whatever. But I've tried to teach him that, like, it's what you do, you know, you help people. And so I think in building the relationships with the people we have around us, I think it helps when they see it in you, and then they're more willing. I mean, not that these people wouldn't do it anyways, but like the give and take. I think being a part of a village or having that tribe help raise your kids, it's a two-way street as well, because you're going to be there for them in their needs as well, and support them in anything that they might need. And I think that just makes your tribe stronger. So
anyone that knows you knows that you're like all in on whatever it is, sports, you know, you're just your son's lives in general.
Yeah.
Like, looking at my friendships that I've had throughout the years, I've always felt like they're a little one-sided, because I am a very loyal person and I will give it my all, but it's not always reciprocated. Right. But, as your boys got older and we became really good friends and started hanging out more, I noticed that immediately with you and Eric and Tyler. It's like, you guys were there to help us. You're there. But one thing that really sticks out is that we got invited to stuff. It's really nice to get invited to stuff, you know, rather than I'm always the one that's like inviting people and cooking for people. Yeah. It's nice to have a friend that like reciprocates that. Exactly. But it's something I really appreciate. And I guess you could narrow it down to like, showing up is contagious. If you show up for people, they're going to hopefully show up for you. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
I really like that. What advice would you give to 18-year-old Brandee if you could go back and talk to her? Or what would you tell her?
That it's going to work out. That, you know, you have your ups and downs, and life gets tough, but there is the light at the end of the tunnel, and it works out. So everything's okay. And, you know, everybody goes through struggles, and it's what you learn from them and take from it. And as long as you keep growing from that, then that's the most important thing.
So I know you've watched a little bit of my content on social media
Yeah.
and stuff, and maybe a few episodes. So, you know, like this whole podcast is kind of my journey of becoming a rad dad.
Yeah.
What lessons do you feel like haven't been discussed on the podcast from like a single mother's perspective that can help me be a better father?
I don't know if like, I think one thing that, as a parent, I feel like, you should do is, um, taking an interest in what your kids like. It might not always be the most enjoyable for you, but, learning it and like being a part of it with them is huge, because then, uh, it's not them just going off and practicing and doing this or whatever. Like, you get to be a part of that, and you get to spend more
Mm-hmm.
time with them, or at least have a dialogue or conversation with them at another time where, I- like, they could be telling you a story and you can contribute to it, and you can be like, oh yeah, what about this and this? And I think they feel like valued and important, like important enough that you're going to take that time to learn, um this new thing that they're enjoying. So I think that, uh is a big thing to make sure that you get interested in the things that they like. Um and I think being a part of, for children, I think being a part of, not necessarily sports. Sports are great, but, um, music or
Mm-hmm.
drama, or having some type of hobby that they love and can spend time on, helps as well. And I think having that core friend group, whether it's, like, I lucked out, and Eric and Tyler, both of them had the best group of friends growing, like, to this day, like, they're
Yeah.
still really close with them. um and so, and I'm still close with them, like I love all those kids. And, um I think that's important. I think it's important as you get older and as you're married, and um that your children see that you have good relationships with not just your wife or your spouse, but your friendship groups are, um, valued as well. And I think it's good for them to see, to know, as they're choosing their friends growing up. So
Yeah. Just thinking about it, I feel like allowing your kids to feel supported can be such a life-changing lesson at a young age. If they feel supported by you, I think it provides more confidence, and it creates that environment where they can grow more. They
mhm.
feel comfortable, uh, they're supported, and they can just
I feel
attack
like,
life.
yeah, and I feel like they're more open to being able to come and have a conversation with you as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think they, with feeling supported or feeling like that value, then they know that, um, you're going to take the time, and they can come and talk to you about stuff.
Which is probably important as a single mother with two boys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, to wrap up this podcast, I ask the same question to all my guests, and
Mhm.
that is, if there's one lesson you want to leave with your boys when you're no longer here, what is that lesson?
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. I should have listened all the way to the end. Um, Dang. If I'm not here, I just want them to know that, um, to love each other, love their family, um, and the gospel, and, you know, to stay strong um, as brothers. I tell them this often. I'm always like, if I'm gone, like, it's just you two,
Yeah.
like, that's, so you guys have to like each other, because that's all you have.
Yeah.
And so, um, but yeah, like, that's kind of it. Like, at the end of the day, it's the two of them and their spouses and their kids. And, so if I'm not around, like, I would like to still see them continuing the bond that they have together, and, keeping that strong, and building a bigger tribe.
I love that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thanks for being on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
And sharing your thoughts, insights, and stories. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jace.
Cool.